like the other media networks, we run thousands of campaigns around the world, and we had to select one. And which one should we choose? Well, I think the clue was in Charlie's introduction yesterday when he said he wanted campaigns that were meaningful. And we picked one which we think is incredibly meaningful. The media world is one where we face a lot of challenges, we have a lot of fun, we're often under pressure. But we do say, generally, things are not a question of life and death. In this particular instance, it is a case of life and death. And it's about giving blood, donating blood in Russia. In order to understand the context for this, we have to wind back a few years. So during the Soviet era, there is what is nicely phrased voluntary compulsory giving of blood. And what this meant was that companies, organizations were given a quota of people that had to turn out and give blood. So that was it, and they had the time off to give blood, to recover afterwards, and that was fine, so supplies looked good. At the end of the Soviet era, however, none of that socially conscious behavior was passed on to the next generation. And if you look at this chart, you can see the collapse of donor rates in Russia. Now, if you're selling coffee or ice cream or fragrances, that's a pretty depressing chart. If it's about blood supplies, then it's a real problem because people were dying as a result of there being a lack of blood supplies. Could you just put the lights up a minute? I'd just like to ask everybody a question about this before we talk about the challenge. Put the lights up a little bit. Could I ask you to put your hand up if you have ever donated blood? Wow. And could you keep them up if you've donated blood more than once? Thank you. Now, this gives you a clue to the scale of the challenge. Because what we were looking to do is to change that dramatic drop into a whole new social consciousness about donating blood. A real revolution in people's attitudes to blood donation, from passive and detached to responsible and active. And there was an interesting comment from Michael at Coca-Cola this morning saying, you know, we've run campaigns and then afterwards we walk away and then we wait for the next one to come along. It's no good in this case because you have to have something where you engage people and they keep doing it. Blood doesn't last. Supplies don't last. They have to come back. They have to do it again. So that's the nature of the challenge. So we looked at the different groups of people who might or might not be prepared to engage in this. We were looking at young people in particular because for a lot of them there was just not enough information. They weren't conscious of blood, given the importance and the crisis that the country was in. And we split them. We did quite some extensive research on this. We split them into quartiles here. Those people who are more concerned with themselves, who really are not interested in this area. The bottom ones think that I'm only interested in myself, health phobias, I just don't want to be involved. Other people who are really wrapped up in themselves, it's not for me, they're not going to do it. On the other side, on this side, people who are much more concerned about society, about giving, about altruistic motivations, fall into two groups. There are those who are more the opinion leader types, the ones that with more information you can persuade. And then there are those who actually do lean towards being altruistic, but they're worried. They're worried that there can be health problems if they give. It might be painful. There might be some side effects. They're not really sure. And what we needed to do was to motivate the opinion leaders and the people who would change with more information to push gently onto the other people with the concerns, with the people that were the followers. The other important thing was we had to get the corporates on side. We had to get the companies wrapped up in this as well. We had to get them really to say it's okay to give people time off to go and do this, that this is a really socially responsible thing to do. It makes an important contribution. We had to talk to the CEOs, had to talk to the HR heads, and the Russian Blood Donation Service ran some really good PR work to go alongside this to get at the corporations. Good to have a media chart nobody can read. I'll just give you a little bit of a tip on it. We looked at the different media. We looked at the contribution they'd make. In Russia, TV is incredibly powerful. It gives you that mass coverage. In addition, for the coverage potential, outdoor plus radio. If you've ever driven in Moscow, you'll know that traveling only 3 or 4 miles can take you an awful long time if you're in a car. There's a lot of time to absorb outdoor and listen to radio while you're in the car. It also helped very much activate where you could give it, the locations, what to do, because we needed people to take action now, to move straight away. The other element of this is experience of family and friends. And that's where the social network side of things came into play, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. So, social consciousness for the young. We told different stories to different groups, and we had people share those stories. The theme throughout it was, we are of one blood. And this really was a tremendously powerful message. There's a Russian social network phenomenon. If you look at ComScore, you'll see that the average use of social networks in Russia is twice that of the average. I think it may even rank as the top country for using social networks. And we had there, I am a donor theme of sharing experiences, helping to overcome those fears, helping to push down from the influencers into those people that had concerns. So although we described this as a campaign, in truth it was more of a mission for our Russian office, and we're incredibly proud with them of the results that were achieved. I'll show you a film in a moment. I say we got into very close partnership with the blood donation service in Russia, who are in the audience today. It was much more of a close partnership than perhaps sometimes a traditional client-agency relationship. It was something that we adopted within the office. We had our own Give Blood days. We recruited other clients to help. We recruited media owners to provide additional space. You'll see that the prices in an over-demanded market were already incredibly low. We had additional free space. And we worked together with the client on this concerted PR drive. The great thing about this campaign, when we talk about ROI, is you can make a calculation of how many lives have been saved as a result of the additional donation. So what an incredible motivation for a campaign. So I'm going to show you a film which will show you the results, give you a little bit of a summary, and at the end you will see a rather shaky video at the end of the film which shows us working together, signing up, committing ourselves with the client for the campaign and for the future.
In Russia, the rate of blood donation has dropped dramatically in the last 15 to 20 years, with levels residing far below the norm. This means children and adults who need blood transfusions are often at risk due to the low supply. In Soviet times, blood donations were respected and rewarded by state officials, but with political change, donation has been overlooked. Our challenge was to encourage Russians to volunteer to donate their blood. We studied motives and barriers preventing blood donation. After thorough investigation, we focused on people who hadn't donated before, who were socially active and with the highest potential to respond to the campaign. They either lacked general knowledge or had health phobias. Our study highlighted the most influential channels for our integrated campaign. So we used TV to talk about the value of donation, with different stories to appeal to key audiences. Radio and outdoor continued the journey to donation, inside and outside the home. We encouraged people to think about donation, emphasizing that the right time to donate is now. We provided them with a hotline number to address any barriers. We then enhanced this by engaging the power of friends' recommendation and persuasion through the launch of the app on Russia's top social networking site. As part of the integrated campaign, the blood service used PR to promote celebrity endorsement and mobile blood donor stations. Despite an inflating market, our outreach program to media owners generated an extra 6% free media on top of the half-price rates. We raised huge attention to the problem in the very first days of the ad campaign. The number of hotline calls increased fivefold and reached 1,000 people a day. Web inquiries rocketed with 40% growth. But more importantly, we motivated people. 60% of those who called were ready to give blood, and 80% of them were ready to donate in the next month. The younger generation reacted strongly to the campaign, downloading over 100,000 apps. Corporations also changed how they perceived donation, becoming official partners of the blood service. Compared to the previous year, awareness levels for blood issues grew dramatically, up 55%. We help people to feel healthier, feel proud of themselves, feel more concerned and more involved.
It's a real honour for ZenithOptimedia to have this partnership. It's an honour because we've started a relationship with the FM Bar supporting the blood donation campaign for a number of years now. So we are very excited. We consider this, as we discussed, the start.
So that's it. We've had money to invest in mass media last year. The funds are more limited this year for it, but it's only the start of the journey. As I said, this isn't something which can be considered a single campaign and then stop. I think what we will see more of for the future, though, is continuing to work on those stories in the social media in order to influence those people with doubts, to try to keep the momentum going, to spread the word, and I hope we're going to be able to continue to see growth in this vitally important sector. Thank you very much.